Hey guys, before we get into this video, I'm going to ask that you politely search my channel and go ahead and click the subscribe button. It is my goal to obtain at least 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year 2024. I know we can do it and I appreciate your support. Now let's get into it.
Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today's video we are going to be talking about how to charter a chapter from the graduate level side. This is a really interesting question because it was something that I briefly mentioned. This is me picking up jacks. I briefly mentioned this in my last live Q&A, but it's also something that came up because I have told you guys recently that my graduate chapter chartered an undergraduate chapter, and we're really excited about it. So we are looking forward to all the things that they're going to do on the undergraduate level for the community, in addition to what we're doing for the community. So we're really excited. But for those of you who want to know how to charter a chapter, more so the prep work and just things that you should be aware of, I think this would be a really good video, so just keep watching. So there are some steps to chartering a chapter beyond the actual chartering portion. That I'm not going to get into today. I think that some of that is just, it depends on the organization themselves, but I think the prep work is equally important. So these are the things that I recommend doing to prepare for chartering your undergraduate chapter if you are a member of graduate chapter. One thing you want to make sure that you have is an outstanding committee. Chartering a chapter is a lot of work. It's not work for just one person to do. It definitely helps if you are the one person and you're like working at the institution, or you know people at the institution, or you just know a bunch of undergrads who want to join your organization and there isn't a chapter established on campus. If you're that person, that's awesome. But one person cannot charter a chapter alone. You have to have some type of support group, i.e. a committee. Now, your committee members are people that I recommend who are just outstanding at what they do. They can be people who have chartered in the past, not necessarily. People who, I'll say they should be people who have been involved in a membership process before. Not their own, more so have they also recruited and brought in people into the chapter. So were they previously vice presidents when they were in undergrad, or were they advisors at a previous chapter, things like that. You want people who are experienced, but you also would like to involve some new people because they have a fresh understanding of what the process is like. For example, maybe it would be good to have someone who recently graduated from undergrad who joined the organization like the year before and then graduated. So like a graduating senior who joined the organization. Those people would be really helpful too because they have a really fresh understanding of what recruitment is like in the undergrad sense, because it is different if you are a graduate person, a graduate member who did not cross in undergrad versus someone who crossed in undergrad and then transitioned to graduate membership. There are two different experiences. So making sure that you have a good committee that is either experienced or just really good at being on time, showing up, being there when you cannot, and just being very trusted in the process. I think it's really important to have those people involved. The next thing that I think is really important to have is setting time aside. Chartering a chapter is a lot of work, especially if you're starting at the beginning of any semester. You're going to want to make sure that you have everything laid out before you get started with the actual submitting of your paperwork, and that's going to take time. Typically, my recommendation is to plan for it at least a semester or a season in advance. So if I know that I want to charter a chapter in spring of 2024, I will have wanted to have the paperwork and everything done by no later than the end of fall of 2023, because I don't want to have any hiccups when it comes time for me to submit my paperwork. Paperwork is equally important. You have to have your paperwork in order and done before you can even charter a chapter. Headquarters will have a lot of requirements and stipulations that will need to be completed in order for you to even be eligible to charter a chapter. So just making sure that you're reading the procedure, you know the policy, and you're submitting your paperwork on time is important. Being financial is important. Having financial people around you is important. You want to make sure that your paperwork is grade A, A1, excellent before you try to charter a chapter, because they will kick it back and say, sorry, this is not correct. And if you submit it on the deadline and it's also incorrect, you just missed your opportunity to charter that chapter. So get it done early and make sure it's correct. Have someone check it, triple check it if possible, to make sure that you're good before you start your process so that you don't have any hiccups along the way paperwork wise. It is also equally important to have a good relation with Greek life. I think this is really important because you want to have an established relationship with someone on campus. So Greek life is essential when wanting to charter a chapter because it's the institution that's also involved in the process. So you guys have probably seen my videos on how to express interest if there's no one on campus. You're going to want to make sure that you have someone in the Office of Greek Life or in student organizations who's aware that your graduate chapter wants to charter an undergraduate chapter. Reason being is because those people may have information on those who are interested, or they can invite you to events where typically they would not see you, the interest, because they didn't know that you were, able to come. So for example, when we were recruiting for our college, we would attend almost every Greek event that was available to us. So whether it was a Meet the Greeks or a intake orientation, our graduate chapter made sure that we had some members there who were visible so that people could see that we were there so that they can inquire, ask questions, and we can also get their information as well. With that, I would add that it's important to establish a presence. So you have your connections on campus, you have people who are potentially interested in joining your organization, but how do they know when and where to find you? Well, you attend the events, and you can even create your own events if it's possible. So community service in the area is always great. Anytime the student organizations have something going on, you can ask to be added to their list so that you can be a part of it, or you can do your own events and invite the undergrads and making sure that they see you guys and that you know that you're available on not necessarily on campus, but you will soon be available on campus. So it's a great way to just make sure that you're keeping the connections there. An informal rush is also important in that regard because informal rush is a great way to see who all is actually interested so you can get an actual count. So hosting an informal rush at least the semester before the semester you plan to do intake is also important because the interests need to know what's going on in terms of where you guys are in your process. They also need to know how to prepare. So what are the requirements to become a member? Do you have community service requirements? Do I need to have a resume? Do I need to have an interest letter? Those things are included in your informal rush. So making sure that you have an informal rush at some point before you start your process is also helpful. Lastly, you want to continue to recruit. If you don't already have an established list of people, you having a presence on campus will help you with that, and just making sure you create a list. I used to carry I didn't carry. We had an event, I would have a QR code that was connected to a form stock where if people were interested, they can just scan the doc, fill out their information, and that was my way of capturing who was interested in joining the organization, just so I can keep them updated on things that we're doing. Also continuing to recruit. If you know people on campus who are interested in becoming members of the organization, make sure that you're telling Student Life or Greek Life to be in contact with you so that you can also establish your list of people, and just making sure that you're keeping the lines of communications open because oftentimes people get anxious when they don't see when something's happening, but they know that it's happening. So being the graduate chapter, being the liaison, the person that is responsible for making sure that these people stay updated is important as well, because you don't want people to lose interest. Not saying that they will, but you don't want people to lose interest in terms of, feeling hopeless and feeling like it's never going to happen. So keeping the lines of communication open and making sure that you're continuously recruiting, continuously inviting them to events so that they know that it's still happening and that something's going on, so that they don't kind of lose hope in a way. But that's basically my advice for people who want to charter an undergraduate chapter on campus. Information as far as how to get started and to just prep for it. If you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.